Hello and welcome back. In the last episode, a lot did actually happen, but it was honestly not a lot for the good. I did end up finding all of my stuff again, but I got very distracted from the topic at hand, which was I was building these huts right here. In fact, I did actually finish one of those huts, but I forgot to record any of it, showing the building or even showing a little bit of a walkthrough. So let's go ahead and start down here and see what it looks like as we come up. You'll notice that I did move it just a little bit closer in, and it's not a huge building here. I will start back behind here. I did make a little garden area that overlooks the unfinished forest, but the inside is also quite simple. It's just bookshelves, an ender chest to make things a little bit more practical, and some of these shelves, which I actually quite like the look of, though they are incredibly expensive to make. And then my bedroom is just up here because this is the only place I could find to put it. I think I am going to change up the ceiling up above, which means I wouldn't need to change the flooring up here as well. But I think this is the general idea that I want for functionally this entire village. Just little houses that are slowly strewn about. In fact, I think this area right here will be a perfect place for yet another house. I initially thought that the houses need to be spread apart a little bit more, but I do think that having them a little bit closer, a little bit more crowded, would be just fine. So I think that's going to be where we start. And then once we get done building all of these houses, it's time to rectify the elephant in the room, which is this ugly as sin house right here. But I believe right now it's just time for some building. And so I think I'm going to get to work and build a lot of these little buildings right here so that we can start figuring out what exactly we're going to use as the focal point for this entire build. So let's start off with a time lapse as we build all, well, maybe not all, but at the very least some of these buildings here. As you saw from the time lapse, we're definitely not completely done, but it is looking a whole lot better. You saw this one. I did accidentally pause the recording as I was making this one, but let's take a little walk through and just see the differences. This is the very first iteration, and there was some room for improvement. Still is. I need to texture this area right here, but I really did like the half roof. I liked the glass walls, but I didn't want them all to be like that. So I made this one with just a normal roof, and I started to make sure to use all of our copper lanterns because I think they just look better. Of course, there is for sure some interior decorating that needs to be done, but I love the idea of having these decks just so it increases the area that you can work in just a little bit. Many of these do have a second story, such as this one here, especially if you have the parapet wall, or especially if you have the half ceiling here, you're almost certainly going to end up with a second story. I did do something quite interesting here, I thought. I basically made this two separate areas. In many areas that I used to live in the Midwest, there was an exterior cellar. So you had to actually go outside, open up a door. I'll see if I can find a picture to display it right here. But that's functionally what this ends up being. It's just a secondary part of the house that isn't accessible from the inside. And that will be just a little bit of storage. Here we have our desk. I need to put a bed here, and I need to put a fireplace here. And of course we have our little deck out here. Now, we for sure have a lot of different buildings to make. I need to lay another one out right here. I need to make another pathway go down there. And then of course I need to build these 3, maybe even 4 houses. But building this, in fact, let's go ahead and take a flight up. I see some very big issues with the areas, and I think you can notice them as well. But the first, and being the smaller one, is I don't actually have any supports down below here. So I am going to need to figure out how to make it look like it's not just floating, because that is all that it's doing right now. It's just floating. And I was originally going to wait to destroy all of this until I was finished with more of the village down below. But I really just don't like this huge bit of really nothing. But I really don't like this building at all. And so I think the next thing I'm going to be doing is just tearing this all down. And I believe I am going to end up using a lot of the materials for the house below. I wouldn't say I'm going to be using these, but perhaps I'll be using it for making crafting tables or that sort of a thing. Or even bookshelves, because I think all of the bookshelves remain the same color. But let's clear out my inventory and get started on just making this whole area look a little bit more like a clean slate. And just like that, we do have it torn all the way down. I was thinking about tearing down this wall as well, but I do think that if I do that, it's going to kind of mess with the feeling that I wanted when going through this area here. I think it's actually raining in that area right now, but I'd actually be interested to hear what you have to say, because I think if I do end up tearing this out and make it a little bit more like it was originally, just having this hill right here, I think I'm going to end up, if I do tear this wall out, then right here there will be another house or two built butting up against that wall. But I'm not sure if that's what I want. It might actually look better just having another 1 or 2 story tall building in the same style right here. That way it is just flanked coming all the way up. And then I think I'm not going to have one huge focal point as a building anyways. Instead, I'm going to build something else right... Well, I don't think here. I will bring this back right back here. Yeah, I think it's going to go back just a little bit farther that way, but you're just going to have to wait and see exactly what that's going to end up being. In the meantime, though, I think I'm just about finished with this area, but I'm not quite finished with the entirety of this episode. So I think we just need to make our way to the end and see if we can build just a simple little ender farm. Well, we have some good news and some bad news. The good news is this right here, but you'll notice the roof isn't finished, and that's where the bad news comes in. See, I was not very careful, and as I was building this section of the roof, I looked right at those Endermen up there, and lost everything that I had. So, unfortunately, we can't actually use this right now, and we're going to have to find our way slowly but surely back to our base. But honestly, that's not a huge deal. We do have all of our shulker boxes here and the more important stuff. So let's turn this all the way down so we don't have to hear those Endermen. So I was going to do just a little bit of mending as the very end of this episode, but I think this right here is going to be where we end it. And in between episodes, I'm just going to have to go back and get re-geared up. But the good thing about this is that I can now do this. But there is a silver lining to this. As an outro, I can do something just a little bit special. So thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, feel free to hit the like button. If you didn't, let me know what I can do better in the comments. And I'll see you again next time. Bye!